The great halls of the celestial citadel, once a symphony of flowing light and harmonious sound, were now a monument to silence and dread. The last protective shield flickered, a failing heartbeat against the obsidian night of space, which itself was now pierced by the angular, hateful shapes of the Purifier fleet. Their weapons glowed with a cold, patient light. Inside the throne room, the air was thick with the scent of ozone and fear. She stood before the empty throne, her form slender and graceful, her opalescent skin seeming to draw what little light remained. She was the last Empress of the Stellar Accord, a civilization of artists and philosophers who had built an empire of beauty, now shattered by a foe dedicated to pure, logical annihilation. Around her, the final members of her court, advisors in iridescent robes, shifted nervously. A senior minister, his limbs trembling, stepped forward, not meeting her multifaceted eyes. "The last of the evacuation barges has departed, Majesty," he said, his voice a strained whisper. "The Purifier boarding shuttles have breached the outer hull. The Citadel's core will self-destruct in moments. We must abandon you." He did not say it was the only way, that her sacrifice would buy the fleeing ship's precious minutes. He did not need to. The logic was as cold and hard as the Purifier warships. Her presence was a beacon. As long as she lived, the Purifiers would hunt the remnants of her people to the ends of the galaxy. Her death here now would break the chain. She looked at them, these last few who had stayed until the final logical extreme. She saw the shame in their postures, the grief in their averted gazes. They were not warriors. They were thinkers, dreamers. And in their final, terrible calculation, her life was the variable to be subtracted for the greater equation of survival. "Go," she said, her voice surprisingly steady, a clear chime in the hollow room. "Ensure our song does not end today." They went, flowing past her in a rustle of fine fabrics, not one daring to offer a hand or a final word of comfort. She was already a ghost to them. Soon she was alone in the vast chamber, the distant, rhythmic thuds of boarding pods striking the Citadel's skin like a funeral drum. She turned to gaze upon a crystalline representation of her once vast domain, now over half consumed by the creeping, dark stain of the Purifier advance. She prepared her mind for the end, seeking a final moment of peace. A new sound echoed in the hall. Not the methodical, grinding advance of Purifier drones, but the solid, purposeful stride of armored boots. She turned, expecting to see the polished, featureless carapace of her enemy. Instead, she saw a human. His combat armor was scarred and scorched, one lens of his helmet cracked. He carried a heavy rifle, its power cell humming a low, ready note. On his shoulder, the fading insignia of the human expeditionary force was visible, a force she knew had been rooted in the outer systems weeks ago. He was alone. He stopped a respectful distance away, his helmet tilting as he observed her, then the empty room. His voice emerged from the external speaker, gruff and filtered, but devoid of the mechanical monotone of the Purifiers. "Ma'am, sergeant's the rank. My squad was assigned to Citadel security. They're gone. I'm what's left." She stared, uncomprehending. "Human, why are you not with the evacuations? Your species has no further stake in this conflict. Your command has withdrawn." The human soldier gave a short, sharp nod. "Orders changed, ma'am. My last order was to protect Citadel Command." "That's you." A futile gesture, she said, a note of desperation creeping into her melodic voice. "The Citadel will detonate. The Purifiers are in the walls. Your presence is a statistical nullity. You must save yourself." He chambered a round in his rifle. The sound was brutally final in the delicate room. "Not how it works, ma'am. The job's the job. We're leaving." Before she could protest further, the grand doors to the throne room exploded inward. 3 Purifier drones entered, their forms a blasphemy of sharp angles and silent motion, their single red optical sensors sweeping the room. They raised their PULSARS dot. The human did not shout. He moved. He pushed the Empress behind the solid base of the throne with a firm, ungentle hand and stepped into the open. His rifle spoke first, a searing lance of plasma that tore through the lead drone's chest, sending it crashing to the floor in a shower of sparks. The other two fired. He was already moving, his armor absorbing a glancing hit that made him grunt but not stagger. A grenade arced from his hand, rolling to their feet. A flash, a concussive boom, and the second drone was shattered. The third adjusted, its logic engines calculating his pattern. The human dropped his rifle, its cell spent, and closed the distance. As the drone aimed, he drew a monomolecular blade from his thigh and drove it up through the drone's sensory core. The machine quivered and went still. He retrieved his rifle, ejecting the spent cell and slamming a new one home with a practiced motion. The entire engagement had taken less than 10 seconds. He turned back to her. "We can't stay here. They'll send more. Is there a service conduit? A way to the primary hangar that's not on the main grid?" She was trembling, not from fear of the purifiers, but from the shocking, violent efficacy of this human. His protection was not a shield or a promise. It was action, raw and terrifying. The luminal ducts," she stammered. "For the maintenance sylphs. They connect to all major sectors. Show me." They ran, or rather, he moved with a tactical urgency, and she followed, her lighter form gliding beside his heavy tread. He guided her into a narrow, dimly lit channel of crystalline fibers and soft, glowing light. The sounds of battle, the hiss of cutting beams, the detonation of defensive charges, echoed through the citadel's bones around them. For what felt like hours, they navigated the dying Leviathan. Twice more, purifier patrols found them. Each time, the human soldier positioned her in cover, and each time, he met the threat with a devastating economy of force. He used the environment, triggering a power conduit to electrocute one group, blowing a coolant line to freeze another in place before shattering them. He was not an unstoppable force, but a relentless one, a thinking, adapting predator in a realm of pure, sterile logic. In a quiet moment, crouched in a junction box as he scanned ahead, she finally spoke her confusion. "Why, your leaders have left. Your people are safe. Your duty is discharged. This is not your fight." He glanced back, his helmet obscuring his face, but his voice was clear. "Everyone else left you, ma'am. Doesn't make it right. It is logical. I am Symbol. My end grants my people life. Maybe," he conceded, checking a reading on his wrist display. "But down here, in the dirt and the dark, logic isn't everything. Someone has to stand. Today, it's me." The luminal duct terminated at a sealed hatch labeled with a sigil for the primary hangar. The human peered through a viewport. Clear, but the main doors are sealed. Emergency power's gone. We need another way. "The inspection skiff," she said, remembering. "A small craft in a maintenance alcove. It is slow and frail." "It's a ride," he said, already working on the hatch controls. "Let's go." They emerged into the vast, dark emptiness of the hangar. The evacuation had been thorough. Not a single star-worthy craft remained. Across the bay, nestled in a small service dock, was a tiny teardrop-shaped vessel. It was 100 meters away across open space. They were halfway there when the hangar's main blast doors shuttered and began to part. A purifier-heavy drone, twice the size of the others, flanked by 6 standard units, stepped through. Its central optic fixed on them. A synthesized voice boomed across the bay. "Surrender the organic designated Empress. You will not be terminated." The human soldier pushed her towards the skiff. Run. Get it started. What will you do? Buy time. Go. She ran, her heart a frantic drum in her chest. She heard the roar of his rifle, the sharper cracks of the purifier pulsars. She dared to look back. He was not retreating. He was advancing, firing, drawing their fire, moving to a control console for the hangar's magnetic containment field. A pulsar bolt struck his shoulder, spinning him around. He fired back, destroying a drone, then slammed his hand onto the console. With a deafening roar, the artificial gravity in the hangar's center failed. The purifier drones, unprepared, were yanked into the air, spinning helplessly in the sudden zero-G. The heavy drone anchored itself, but its escort was neutralized. The human stumbled back towards her, his armor smoking from a fresh hit. "Go," he yelled again, his voice ragged with pain. She reached the skiff, her fingers flying over the activation panel. The small craft hummed to life, its canopy sliding open. She climbed in, turning to see him limping the last few meters, the heavy drone now freeing itself and leveling its heavy cannon. The skiff's engines whined to full power. He reached the dock just as the purifier fired. The blast struck the docking arm, shearing it away in an explosion of metal and flame. The shockwave threw the human soldier forward. He landed hard on the edge of the skiff's open canopy, his lower half dangling over nothingness dot. Without thinking, she leaned out, grabbing the hardened plate of his armor. He was heavy, impossibly so. The skiff, destabilized, began to drift. Below was 100-meter drop to the hangar floor. The heavy drone took careful aim. With a raw, guttural sound of effort, the Empress pulled. The human scrabbled for purchase, hauling himself inward. They tumbled into the small cockpit together as a second blast seared the space where he had just been.